In today's episode, we are reaching day 500 in my Skyblock world. But before we do that, there are actually 3 tasks I want to do in this episode. First, like always, we have to make some progress on the base, and today I want to put those ruined walls on the other layers. I think that'll make them look a lot more finished, even if they are just empty. Second, you might remember in the last episode we built this scary thing, which is an automatic tree farm that almost killed me. But anyways, we kind of just left it sitting there out in the open like this, and obviously this simply will not do. So I want to get some sort of building done around the farm. And third, I want to make a grand fireworks display to celebrate the 500th day in this world. Alright, so to kick off this episode, we are starting on day 430 with doing some material gathering at the good old stone farm. I was gonna need both stone and moss to make all the blocks I would need for the walls, and I really just wanted to get this grindy part over with right at the beginning. When I had a few shulker boxes of the materials I would need, I set them aside to build the walls a bit later. Now it was time to spend literal hours dealing with the stupidest, most annoying mob in Minecraft.
Huh?
Now, what would I need these villagers for? Well, you see, for the second task, I wanted to build something around the tree farm. And for this, I was gonna need about 1.5 shulker boxes of quartz blocks. Obviously, I could go mining in the nether and try to collect the quartz that way, or I could make a bunch of mason villagers and simply trade with them, even if villagers are a real pain. Luckily for me, I had some help from my boyfriend, so while I was struggling with the design for the trading hall and getting Karen to do as I wanted, Mark was breeding up the villagers as well as my animals. Then something terrible happened. I accidentally killed Karen. I know, tragic. So to always remember Karen, I took her remains, renamed them, and hung them above my bed, so every time I go to sleep, I'll be reminded of the absolute pain in the butt she used to be. I mean, there is a reason she got that name. Anyways, now that Karen wasn't in the way anymore, it was time for me to get back to work, and I decided I would build a villager breeder where the villagers could easily be turned by a zombie for better deals once they were cured. The breeder I went with is the one by Logic Geek Boy. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested in building it yourself. Anyways, I also brought in a successor for Karen and named them Karen Wren to fit with the theme. And while all this had been going down, Mark had made sure the villagers had plenty of food, and by now we had amassed a small army of villagers. And so Mark logged off and left me to do all the fiddling with the villagers. Now, to not bore you with too much repetitive stuff, here is in short what happened. I moved all the villagers into minecarts, made sure all of them had been at least one trip by Karen Run, then moved them into their new permanent home in my kind of scuffed trading hall. In the beginning, I had been naming every single villager, but I kind of gave up on that at some point because I simply could not come up with that many good names. So instead, I'm yoinking this idea from the German Potato that if any of you guys want a villager named after you, all you have to do is leave a comment on this video. Alright, so we've gone pretty far with the villagers now, and I think for now it's just gonna be a grind of buying a bunch of quartz from these guys, but actually we are already on day 456, so I do think I'm gonna have to start preparing for day 500. So let's just jump right into a material gathering montage. First, I was gonna need some glowstone dust and gold nuggets. Then I needed a bunch of chickens for feathers. And a whole bunch of different dyes. And of course, gunpowder and sugar for the paper. Then it was just a question of me crafting it all into 500 fireworks stars, because I thought one fireworks star was equal to one rocket, and you know, 500 days, 500 rockets. Hold up. You get 3 rockets. Oh my god, I've made 3 times more stuff than I need.
Stupid.
We're gonna get 1,500 rockets and not 500. Honestly, I wasn't even mad that I had made too many fireworks. It just meant I was gonna get a bigger and grander display. Then I decided to clean up my island and get rid of all the tall things that were gonna be in the way of the view. But since that was a pretty boring process, let me just... ta-da! I had also planned out the placement of the dispensers that were gonna shoot out the fireworks. Then I used some arrows to test the timing of the display and make sure it was to my liking. When I was satisfied, I filled in all the fireworks, and now the only thing left to do was wait for day 500. And so, since we were still just on day 463, I decided that now would be the perfect time to build those walls on the lower levels. And so I whipped out my gaming mouse, which has a nifty little button that lets me spin the scroll wheel super fast, and got to placing down all the blocks as randomly as possible. And after quite a while, I finished up the final broken down wall going around the last layer. Now before you start yelling, but Pinky, what about the upside down walls? Well, I didn't make them because I haven't figured out how I'm going to make them. Obviously, I'm probably going to have to use a lot of scaffolding of some kind since I can't really reach from below. But anyways, then I spent some time doing some boring cleanup. So while I do that, I just want to let you guys know that over on the Discord, I'm currently working on a project involving you guys, where you can suggest any sort of little thing you want me to build, and I will include it in the 1K subscriber build. And speaking of subscribers, it would mean a ton to me if you would help me grow my channel by subscribing. Anyways, enough self-promotion. Now back to the video. The next thing I had in mind was capitalism, because I was gonna be optimizing my emerald income so that I could buy even more quartz blocks even faster. And I had figured out that by making a bunch of toolsmiths, I could sell the iron from my iron farm for really cheap and get 1 emerald per iron ingot. But this meant I would now have to cure a bunch of new villagers to get these prices. Unfortunately, curing villagers is not a cheap process. You need both splash potions of weakness and an entire golden apple per villager. So eventually, I ran out of gold to make more golden apples. And honestly, if I were to collect enough quartz in time, I would need some more converted villagers. Therefore, I decided to go mining for gold in the only place I really can mine, the Nether. And what better way to do it than with beds down at the optimal ancient debris level? Alright, I'm out of beds now, so I just gotta go back and collect all the gold, quartz, and gravel that I can get my hands on. Once that was all done, I headed straight back to my villagers in the overworld, where I spent the time from day 484 to 491 scamming, I mean trading with the villagers. Or, I mean, come on, if the librarian wants to sell me a bookshelf for 1 emerald, and then I break it for 3 books that he will buy for 1 emerald each, how can I say no to that? It's just pure profit. Anyways, on day 491, I finally had enough blocks. And then it was finally time to start making the build around the tree farm. Back in the previous episode, I had a near-death experience with this machine where it had flung me off the edge, and it was only thanks to me wearing my elytra that I managed to save that situation. So to prevent this from happening again, I'm gonna baby-proof the sides of this temple with glass walls that should hopefully catch me if I ever get flung out by this machine again. Contrary to the original temple, where I used black stone for the top triangle, I wanted to sprinkle in some color. And so I bought a bit of red and yellow terracotta from the Mason villagers, and I was also thinking about maybe changing out the black stone for maybe blue or purple terracotta. Anyways, I finished the build on day 499. When I came back to the island, I simply spent some time doing some more cleanup and emptying out my inventory, and somewhere along the way, the day counter ticked over from 499 to 500. And this is when I decided I wasn't really satisfied with the layout of my display, so I quickly rushed that day to change it and just barely finished placing the dispensers back down in time. Now, could I have avoided this day of stress and spent day 500 celebrating in other ways? Yes. And would the fireworks have looked nearly as cool as they're about to? Perhaps. But I'm still glad I changed it, and now it's time. To be honest, I actually think the fireworks looks way better without shaders. But anyways, that was all I actually had for you today. I hope you enjoyed reaching this milestone with me, and I'll see you in the next video.